Hi friends, this is Priyanka and today I'll be sharing with you how to make this cute adorable card. This is one flower stamp and I'm going to use as minimum projects as possible. I actually do not have a lot of stamps, so I try to make the most out of them. So here you see me inking my stamp and I'm just trying to get the best result. The cardstock, it's not water paper color, it's just the normal cardstock. It's around 250 GSM, I suppose, yeah. And the ink I'm using is also just the usual ink pad, which I'll show you in a second. So here I've got another flower from the I just stamped it on another piece of cardstock and then just cut it to size, and I'm masking my image. Now what will happen is when I will stamp over my first stamped image, it would create how do you say, it would create an illusion that there's another flower behind it. So I'm just making sure that the impression is really good, as my ink pad was running out of ink and I just wanted to get it done real quick. So here you see me, and when I lift it up I hold the edge of the masking flower, and I did miss a spot there, but it's okay. You can use a fine tip black pen, or and just cover it up. For the time being I'm just gonna leave it like that, and um, I think I didn't end up doing it at all because you could hardly see it. It wasn't that noticeable. So, anyways, I'm just going to place my mask back there and stamp the image again. And I make sure every time that there's no big chunks of of ink on my stamp. And here you see me stamping it, and you have to be careful with the cutout with the mask. At times it comes off along with it, it sticks to your stamp. And as you can see, my mask is pretty weared out. So this is an easy image because the petals are different shaped. So I could easily figure out, okay, how to place it. But if it was I don't know, a smaller image, or maybe if all the petals were just slightly different, then I guess it would have been a little difficult for me. But this was an easy one. It was all right. So here I just press it real hard because I really want a good impression. I'm not using a MISTI or any other stamping tools. I'm just using the basic and as less of the things as possible. So here you see, to me it looks really nice, and I find this, this is the perfect way to make the most out of your stamps. So again, I do not have a lot of stamps, as I mentioned, and this is the one which I could see, would suit the best. So I took the leaf stamp and I again used my flower mask, and I'm very carefully stamping it between the other two flowers because I just cut out one mask. You can always use sticky notes with the back, which has complete adhesive at the back, or masking tape, but I didn't have any of those offhand, so I'm working with really less resources here. Anyways, so the best thing about the sticky the masking tape, if you cut out, I think, is that your image wouldn't move. And I don't know, if you are trying to do any kind of embossing, or not really embossing, but any kind of the coloring or the brushing stroke, or using any kind of distress ink, then yes, it helps a lot. But this way works too. So as I mentioned, it wasn't that big an image and I just wanted a small cluster of flowers, and I thought, it would just look pretty. So here I am. I'm just speeding up the video so that you don't have to struggle with how I ended up choosing where to place the leaf. And but if you have different shapes of flowers, maybe I'll do a video later about that too, because I have a couple more flowers of the same size, all different shapes, and I think The masking technique is really good, and as I mentioned earlier, it just gets you just end up getting more out of your stamps, and you can have so many variations with just one stamp. I mean, it's just, sky's your limit. So I'm happy with my image. I ended up doing everything, and I'll just quickly go ahead and color the image. Now here I'm using watercolor markers. Now I am not used to these watercolor markers. In fact, I'm not used to alcohol markers also. I'm fairly new at it. So that's why you see me using it really slow. I will speed up the video, but I just wanted to show you initially, how slow I was. And if you pay attention, that I am not coloring over my stamped boundaries here, the black edges of the flower or inside as well. Why am I not doing that? Is because, as I mentioned, this is not Versamark ink, or this is not any other stamp pad that is usually used for stamping. I'm just using the basic good old stamp pad, which is used for finger, the thumbprints and all that stuff, just the basic one. So it tends to bleed out because the watercolor, obviously the base is water, and if I run over these images really harsh, or if I put down a lot of color, the black lines get a little blurred, which I think you might be able to see in a minute. I'll zoom it. I think I will. So anyways, so in the meanwhile, as you see, I chose similar colors. I could have gone for all the shades of red, but I chose red and purples and all that because I like a colorful bunch of flowers. So I did that, and you do see that the image is not very sharp at places, like this flower at the center of it. The When I stamped it, it did not stamp properly, and that's where both masking tape and also your MISTI is very handy, because you don't have to worry about it. You can just re-ink your stamp and just go ahead and stamp it all over again. But because I was using the manual, I was doing it without a MISTI, so I didn't want to mess it up even further, and I just went with it. So as I said, you wouldn't really see any difference if you use a very thin black felt tip pen or anything like that, a marker, Copic marker, anyone. So I tried to do shading for these flowers, like the center was a little dark and the edges were a little light. I've seen those other people doing that in other videos, but I guess you have to have Bristol paper, the water paper, or for watercolor markers. So I just gave up on that. I was like, it's okay, whatever it is, I'll do that maybe when I have the perfect cardstock. So here I'm just coloring up the leaf. Again, you can try putting two colors just to give that shading. So this particular watercolor, as you see, the tip just it went by so quick. The tip was also these are dual pens, so one side is a proper brush, like a paintbrush, and it's really flexible, so you have to be careful. And the more harder you press on it, the more of the color and the water it would have the impression. And if you want really controlled precision one, so you can use the other side of it. So here I'm done, and you can see here the ink, the black ink got a little blurred from all that. So here I'm using an embossing folder, and the grooves will help me emboss the paper. So all I need to do is just feed it the right size paper and just roll it through my Big Shot machine. And as I mentioned, I have very limited things, so this was the perfect one, I thought. and I'm using the really last tab on my Big Shot because it says that's where the embossing folder goes. So just read your instruction manual because your machine might be a little different than mine. So I just pass it through, and when I'll take it out, it will have this beautiful embossed edge, and I really do like it. And I think that's how, the guards and everything, that's how it should be. I really do like it. So I ended up using this one on the I used the size of this particular embossed sheet, and uh, cut out my cardstock according to it. And then I'm planning to just place the flowers. This is another pair I made, but I'm not going to be using that. So here I'm using another it's just plain basic craft paper. Here at Singapore, and at any stationery shop or something, these are the easiest one. And these are, as you can see while I'm flipping it, these are really thin, and they I mean, for card, usually when what it comes to mind is that you use heavy duty cardstock, or at least if nothing then 200 pounds, something like that. But this is really thin. But this is what I had offhand, and I like the color. It matched the center flower. So but this is really thin, but I don't know if you can see the texture. I don't think the video is picking up that well, because it's not a smooth paper, it's not plain, it's like handmade paper, as you would say. Yeah, it has a little roughness to it, and it's good to the touch, but I basically took it just for the color. So here I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not taking any measurements. It's totally up to you. These are handmade cards. So I just placed my actual size card on top of the paper, and I aligned the line of my paper cutter and then just sliced it through. Now this is going to be the perfect size. Now I will just add some adhesive at the back of it, and I'll just make sure that it attaches really well. If you do end up having with eyeballing, that's the thing. If you do end up having the wrong size, it's pretty easy. Don't give up on it. Just use sharp scissors and just trim it off. So I mean, half of the times it turns out okay, but just don't give up on it. Let's, I would say, just go with it. Just finish what you started. So I just put double-sided tape at the back of it, and I ended up pasting it on my card. I decided, because obviously I use that color so that it can show, I can see it from the edges. So I sliced my embossed sheet a little bit from all the four corners, and it fits like a glove. It's just perfect. I could see a little hint of that purple, and so I just ended up pasting it on the card. Now when I'm doing this, usually for the card I use double-sided tape. I do have a tape runner, but the tape runner, I don't feel that's as strong. The adhesive is not that strong, so the double-sided tapes work really well. So I just end up putting a layer on all the four corners, and on the four sides, and then a little bit at the center of it. Sometimes I have trouble peeling off the backing of it, so you can use, I don't know, you can use a sharp edge like a Sharpie, or a cutter or something, so you can see the border around it. So I just took a sentiment I had, thank you. I wasn't sure what I should put here. I don't know, it was just a simple thing. So I added thank you on the same cardstock. And okay, now here's the thing. If you do not have the die to make like a banner, you can do it for both the ends. I ended up doing just for one end. So I use my scissors to make a slit just at the center of this particular sentiment, and then I came in from diagonally from both the corners till the edge of that slit that I make. So I get a perfect V or a bow kind of thing, as you say. So I just pasted my my thank you sentiment on a black piece of cardstock. Again, this black color is again from the same construction paper packet, so it's very thin, but it's just for the edges. I like a neat edge. I don't know, it just seems finished to me. So I added that. I used my tape runner, but for adhering it to the back of the card, I'm gonna use this particular glue because this is strong, and I was kind of scared that due to the embossed surface, it might not stick as well as it did for the plain surface. So that's why I used a strong one, and I wanted the flowers to have some dimension to it. So I just ended up yeah, doubling up some double-sided foam tape, and then added it to the back of my flowers, and just, I mean, as big as your images. So I ended up, I think, putting 5 or 6 of them, just under the flowers, because I don't have to, I don't want to see them peeking through or anything like that. So I just removed the backing and added it. So that's pretty much it. So I left the inside blank, and I think I forgot to show you the inside of the card. But anyways, it's just a blank card. You can write your personal message, or if you have another sentiment, you can add to it. So thank you so much for watching, and please do subscribe to our channel, leave your comments below, and do hit the notification bell. Thank you very much. See you again next time. Bye bye.